As the reluctance, Gamel, how are you doing today? Did you get the reps in? The House of Reps. We make it count. We don't count the reps, we make the reps count. When we do the push-ups, we keep the core tight. It makes us work the core. We don't do it with stubby form. Those reps do not count. They are dirty form. We keep it clean in the House of Reps. Proper reps only. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, my mum's alright, I think. Supposed to be calling her at the weekend, but I think she said her half sister is gonna be like meeting her today or something, so I guess she's been busy with her. Yeah, well, she's been a bit quiet lately. I think she has been having some issues going on and stuff, but that's like the hi-hat sound, you know. then the snare is it, and then that's like the, what do you call that? There's a thing that you think of like boots and cats. Billie Jean is not on the. You're just a girl, and I said I am the one. You know that, yeah. So like you could do Billie Jean, Michael Jackson. Right, so you could like mix the beatboxing and singing together pretty much. Hit the like button. Yeah, so there's that song, what is it? I Believe I Can Fly. I don't know how the drum beat is like for that one really, but I don't know, I'm just kind of making it up really, but I quite like doing that kind of, like the popping sound. Kind of it's like that, you know, and that it goes nice. You must have seen that meme thing. It goes hop hop into the mouth. Nice. Is it called Michael Rosen? All right, everybody. Yeah. I remember there was this guy called Tom Thumb doing the beatboxing, and he was like really good with it. He had to do these different kind of he did these like different world sounds and stuff. It was pretty cool. He did like a TEDx like presentation, and it was like him showing his like different beatboxing stuff. Do I collect anything? Not really. I used to collect cars when I was a kid. Hello, Pixie, walking back. I used to collect cars when I was a kid, but just haven't really been into that for a long time. I tend to grow out a lot of that sort of stuff. I'm not really into like collecting a lot of stuff. These days I kind of just find it as like kind of hoarding kind of thing really, but I don't know. I just can't be bothered with it, to be honest. Collecting a whole bunch of shit. Creating clutter really, I don't know. But I'm quite minimalist these days really, to be honest. Might be a bit boring, but that's just how I am really. Anyway. So yeah, how are we doing tonight, everybody? Hope you're all well. And into dinosaurs and cartoons, of course, being big on Godzilla. Oh yeah, I had this mate that was like really big into Godzilla. I remember playing on one of the Godzilla games, and we'd be like kind of doing like multiplayer on it, with like different characters on it. It's quite fun. You could like pick up like buildings if you're like as Godzilla and stuff. It's just like mad. Yeah, I can't remember which one it was called. What was it called? Godzilla game. Let's have a look. Let's just find out what it was called. But yeah, it was one of the Godzilla games. It was yeah, let's see which one it was called. I can't remember the name of it, but I think it was like kind of, when would it have been? I don't know if it was that one, Godzilla Saved the Earth. I don't know if it was, might have been one after that, but let's have a look. Which one would it have been? Godzilla video games. Is it Super Godzilla? No, that was an old one. Let me find it. Trying to find it really, but in the 2000s, might be Unleashed. Yeah, I think it was Godzilla Unleashed. That was it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was that one. Godzilla Unleashed. Actually didn't really get very good reviews, but it was just kind of fun just doing the yeah, it was not a, it didn't really get good reviews. It got, what is it? The best reviews was actually the Wii version, 44 out of 100. So not very good, is it? But yeah, I think it was Godzilla Unleashed. I could be wrong, but it was just fun. The multiplayer thing where you could just like throw buildings and stuff. I remember, but Godzilla Shin was my favorite, especially his model. Oh yeah, apparently right. This is crazy. Like King Kong is apparently the size of Godzilla's foot. So that puts into perspective how massive Godzilla is. I think that I remember they got it. Eventually got so big it was like taller than like the Tokyo Tower or something, or some size around that basically, which really puts things into perspective. Like it was like a few 100 foot tall. It's crazy. Just like, yeah, so basically King Kong literally only come up to like up to his foot, which is just ridiculously huge. Yeah, he's like, I remember I watched Godzilla back, I think it was the 2014 movie, and it was all right. And it was just, I felt like it was a bit, I don't know if it was just, I don't know. I felt like there was something kind of missing about it. I don't know really. Like it kind of just leaves you with this kind of, I mean, it's cool sometimes. I don't want to spoil it, but it's just, I don't know. I think what was it? The thing was that Godzilla didn't even really get that much on it, and I don't know. It was all right. I mean, it was not bad. I think I remember giving it like about a 7 out of 10 or something. It was pretty good, but yeah, it's not the best film that I've seen. But yeah, yeah. I hope everyone's well anyway. What's your favorite film? I mean, like, I suppose in terms of like the actual like ambitiousness of it, you could say like Avatar could be one of the best films. Like, it's like, you know, the all of the animations and stuff. It was very much like very detailed, very like, and the storyline I was quite interesting and like, um, but yeah, it was like, yeah, I just felt it did go on quite a while, really. I don't know if it really needed to go on that long, but yeah. I think I remember like my uncle wasn't really that into it or something. Maybe it just wasn't like exciting enough for him. I don't know, but everyone's got their own kind of preferences and stuff. I think he was into a lot of like sci-fi kind of stuff. I think it was a big like sci-fi type of stuff. Really, like I remember he was like a big like Stargate fan.
Yeah. I mean, then he likes some kind of other stuff as well, I think, but I don't really know too much of his like interests and stuff. But yeah, it's just oh, it's a new avatar, right? Oh, it's got fire, is it? I don't know. Wasn't it like an Avatar 2 or something? But I've only seen the first one, but that's the whole thing of like going into like a virtual reality kind of thing, like being hooked up into like a almost like a simulation type of thing. But people kind of see this reality kind of like that, possibly that we are possibly hooked up into some kind of that simulation. Maybe that there's like a higher self, if you will, that's like beyond this reality that we are being like kind of projected in from. It sounds weird, but it's like there's that theory that this whole matrix, or whatever, that we are what we feel is like right now is like a projection of basically that a higher reality or something that is like I don't know brought us here for some kind of test or something. Some people have these sort of different theories, but I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in all this like organized religion stuff. I think it's really like something that I just find that organized religion is corrupting there. But in terms of like why we're here and what if there's a reason I don't really know. I don't know if we could ever know that kind of stuff really, but sometimes we have to just accept that there's certain things that we don't know, or we might not even be able to ever know really, because it's kind of it's sort of like just one of those things. It's just one of those things that we can't ever know really. We can't know it unless we have that higher knowledge, and we may never get that higher knowledge because we're in this limited form. And while we're in this limited form, then there's certain bounds to that. But well, I do believe that we have certain powers that, like, I think we sometimes we underestimate what we're capable of, and we have to be careful not to doubt ourselves, and we also need to humble ourselves at the same time. But it's like we also need to just know that we have infinite potential. We have like so much potential, but we've got to not like be in this mindset of lack. Basically, right now I feel I'm abundant. I can get anything I want basically if I want to. If I truly want something, I can get it. Well, I've come kind of trying to get to that sort of conclusion of okay, if I want to find that specific person that in my life, then I can get that. If I really want to, go out and get that, but it's like I'm kind of just happy where I'm at right now. But it's like I'm just like I could go out and get whatever I want, money, whatever. I can. But the thing with money is that the problem with it is that when we become desperate for money, then we can actually block it. So I've learned to let go, and it's try not to learn to depend on these things. We probably shouldn't be depending on so much money in the first place. How would you know they would be right for you? Right? I don't know. Um, I mean, I just think I don't necessarily say superpowers, but it's just is that the subconscious brain is very powerful. Is what I'm saying. The power that we have within us, the powers you could call them like latent powers that we have that have been untapped, and I think that we need to learn to be able to harness that. There was actually that film called Lucy. I've not actually really seen it, but it's this whole thing of when you can use your entire brain, but it's like imagine what we'd be capable of if we learned to be able to use all that untapped part of the brain, that subconscious part of the brain that that this is the part of the brain that it's like it's receiving all this information, and it's so the information can be getting received without us being consciously aware of it, and that's going into like to be processed. And these things could possibly be like manifested in dreams and stuff. So we have to be careful what we're around, really, because we can get influenced by the wrong things if you're around the wrong kind of people, and whether you could possibly be subconsciously being affected by that certain thoughts going in, and without you even realizing it, but there's certain doubts that are being kind of like planted in your brain. You might not realize it at the time, but but when you're like sleeping and stuff and your brain's processing all these things, and then the day after you might start to feel less optimistic, more pessimistic, and you start to have all these doubts start to creep in. Whereas if you're around just positive people, and you can rewrite that program, you can rewrite these subconscious programs. And so a lot of things happen subconsciously, like learning, we'd learn a lot of, when we're learning a new skill or something, and we can actually use meditation to actually enhance a lot of these things. I think they've found that we can become more productive and more creative by getting into a more meditative state, shutting down the brain, shutting down all that mental chatter, allowing it to relax and to really be able to kind of process things in a more efficient way. So a lot of it comes down to just focus, but a lot of us just get so distracted with all these different thoughts that we're unable to really use our subconscious mind properly. We're unable to get into so we can actually get into certain mantras and different things, but it's important that we're around a certain environment that is conducive to that, because otherwise these affirmations and stuff may not really work that well. But you need to be around people that really are positive, and you can really sort of feed off that energy. If they all believe in you, then but you have to sort of have some belief in yourself as well. But it's good to have those people around you that are also looking to so manifestation. It's just about what I want to do is to sort of like leave my mark on the world, and to try and influence and be able to at some point I would like to see things changing in the world in some kind of degree, in terms of economically and politically and things like that. I'd like to see changes happen, because the way that things are is just wrong. And it might sound ridiculous to say that I could ever have any influence on that, but it's like I want to put it to the test and see if I can really believe in that wholeheartedly, that I can actually make anything change. I think that the whole system needs to change, to be honest. Everything about it is just corrupt to the core. It's like we've just kind of got all these problems that I think, I mean, it's like what I want to do is kind of have people really kind of think about what it is they really want from life. And because the part of the problem is this whole need for materialism, and something I'd like to see is, you know, a movement like away from that sort of thing. I'm not saying people should stop using devices and things like that, but for people to become more mindful of it, I think would be that people would only use it to actually better their own life, watching content that actually is productive rather than watching a bunch of brain rot on their devices and stuff like that. And I think there needs to be more of a movement towards these sort of things. And I don't know how I would actually have any influence on these sort of things, but there's a lot of things that I would like to see changed. And I don't know, there's a lot of things that, you know, like economically as well, just people just not really being treated fairly. And hello, Sonny, hope you're well. So yeah, it's about like, you know, not being just one of these degenerate influencers who just will just shill any products, but it's about having integrity, and that's something that I want to promote as that, you know, that basically that you could say like, hello Jeanette, hope you're well. If you're new here, please subscribe, hit that like button as well. You know, the whole thing of, you know, it's like about integrity and honesty and authenticity. Hello, Baku Simp. How's it going? I hope you're well tonight. Hit that like button, everybody. Thank you for the 3 likes. Like, and it's also things like, you know, food, you know, insecurity and things like that. And there shouldn't be anybody that's struggling for food. It's not right, is it? You know, we should be doing things like planting fruit trees and stuff like that more. Like, why don't we have more of that already? There should be, every town and city should have fruit trees everywhere. Even, you know, in the countryside, we should be seeing more fruit trees, you know? Things like that should be abundant. And I think we need to kind of just have some kind of plan of like, okay, how's that going to happen? What is it that we're going to do? How am I going to get the influence to do that? I guess I just have to kind of believe that I can. And some people say it's about living in that end state of like, where do you want to see yourself? Where do you want to, you know, where do you want to see this world going? And you sort of imagine as though that you already have that. And if you can really sort of, you know, visualize that the end state, and you start to live in that kind of, it can be tough, but, you know, some might say it can be difficult when you're trying to manifest something on that scale. It all comes down to how strong your intention is. Some people just ain't going to have a strong enough intention to make it happen, but if it's something that grandiose, but it's like, I don't want to just live my life and not feel like I've just, you know, half-assed it and not actually really made a, you know, a dent or make an impact. I mean, in the world, I want to, you know, I really want to, you know, live life to the fullest. And one of the ways to do that is by, I feel like by having some influence, by having some, being able to, you know, have a positive impact. And that's what I would want to do with my platform in the long run, is I could use it to, you know, kind of help, you know, make campaigns, have, you know, kind of promote certain kind of ideas and try and get them, you know, to be implemented. I could get a bunch of people to, you know, I could get a team of people to like, you know, help me out with that. We could all network and get, you know, it's just, you have to put your intention out there, and then the right people will come along and be like, oh yeah, cool, let's do that, you know, let's try and make something change. But it's like, me on my own right now, it's going to be difficult to make things like that happen. Oh, you're a pigeon. Oh, really? But yeah, you can be anything you want nowadays, apparently. But it's like, you know, that might sound like a ridiculous thing. It's, you know, having these grandiose ideas, but it's like, but who's to say I can't do that? who's to say I can't have influence? You have to believe in yourself. And the thing is, if you believe in yourself, then you have more people believe in you. You have to show that you're serious about it. Show what your plans are. What is it that your vision for the future? How do you see the world, and how is it going to be implemented? Oh yeah, wheelie bin. Okay. You have to have a clear vision. Just so like meditation can be a good way of doing that. Just focus on the vision of what you want. Focusing on that end result, like how it would feel to be in a more ideal world where people aren't so in a rush to get somewhere all the time. Everyone's not panicking to just get to their next job, to get to their job or whatever, or to get home or whatever. It's just doing me head in, basically. It's really been irritating me, like this whole kind of thing of just seeing everybody everyone just seems to be miserable, and they're all just in a rush to be somewhere. They're just, no one wants to kind of like hang out and just hang around town or whatever, and just they're not. It's just things have just gotten so bad. Yeah, I think about putting out content blind too much or a nervous and shy person, but then that comes down to your identity, like your self-image or whatever. You see yourself as a shy person, but it's up to you to change that and just, be like, no, I'm not a shy person. Why am I saying that about myself? You have to flip that switch in your mind of like, and if your question, like, why is it that I'm shy? What am I afraid of? I would love to hang out. Okay. So like, what am I so afraid of? Why am I afraid to, what have I got to lose? And some people might say, oh, it's because I'm afraid of what others might think. Well, why are you afraid of what others might think? What does it matter? When this is the thing, when people base their self-worth on what other people think of them, then therefore they're not a confident person. And that's something you need to work on then. So, but yeah, so like I said, I have these ideas, things I'd like to implement, but I need a big like audience basically for that. So my plan is to really kind of like try and figure out how I'm going to like dominate like the internet and just like become like the fucking next Mr. Beast or whatever, even bigger or something, someone that is actually wholesome, someone with an actual purpose, not just someone who's trying to virtue signal or I don't know what he's trying to do. Is he just trying to, write his taxes off or something? I don't know whether he's doing that or not. He's using all this to boost his own channel. There's no actual like kind of, because it's all just a PR stunt, all this stuff, right? So I'll talk about people like Mr. Beast, who are like, yeah, because he actually got called out a while ago for like this island that he sold to. I think he gave away an island to somebody. Turns out there was a whole bunch of like tax to pay on it or some shit like that. So then the person ended up having to sell the island. So it was just a whole mess, basically. So it goes to show how they're not really thinking things through, are they? Like, it's just stupid, So it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to give away this island. It's like, no, you're just talking shit. It's like, because it's like, this isn't even, a viable thing. It's like, it's just, it's just shit how the most degenerate kind of people seem to rise to the top. But the thing is, they will eventually die off. The thing is, there's very few people that are going to leave a legacy. And that's what I want to do. You know, I'm not going to just be someone who, you know, gets their moment in the sun and then it's like everyone forgets about them or they get disgraced. I'm going to be someone who actually has a real, like, to give a fuck about the world, because I want to see real change happening. But in order for that to happen, I need to become, you know, I need to gain that level of influence to get my message out, to be able to say, this is my, like, manifesto kind of thing, what I want to see happen, because then I can have a global impact then. Not just this country, but other countries as well can then start to follow along. Like, this whole fucking 9-to-5 bullshit, it needs to end. Like, it really fucking needs to end. And even if people talk about a 4-day work week, that's still not good enough. The whole thing of working for somebody else just to end up, like, you know, kind of being treated like shit or whatever, that is all stuff that, you know, it needs to end. The whole system, it needs to be completely, you know, I think it needs to be dismantled. We need to rebuild something. I don't know. Something needs to really change. This world is just so fucked up. Hi, Carl. How you doing? This world is so fucked up, and it's like, is it beyond repair? I don't want to believe that it is. I believe that if I could get that influence, I could make something happen, or at least be the one to, you know, influence change and have others, you know, things like, you know, campaigns and stuff like that. I want to do something on a big scale. Yeah, you know, I could do something now. I guess I could campaign locally, but I want to see things happen on a large scale. And that might sound, you know, grandiose and whatever. It's like, I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. You know, I will stop at nothing to get where I want to be. And you're either with me or you're against me, kind of thing. You know, it's like, if you're not going to take me seriously, then why don't you just fuck off, kind of thing. That's what I'm going to be like, you know, because we need to try and sort of, like, yeah. It's about having a movement. It's about a political movement, because I don't want to believe that I have no power, and that I want to actually prove that if I actually, you know, put my mind to it, then, oh, thank you, Leo. How you doing, Leo? That, you know, if I put my mind to it, I can get where I want to be. Like, I've been doing that with, like, fitness, and just, like, a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's harder to gain muscle if you're taller and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, I put that to the test. Okay, I've gained probably about, God knows how much muscle, but I've gained a lot of size since I started. You know, a lot of people said, oh, well, you can't do that if you're, you know, on a certain kind of diet or whatever. It's like, I don't care. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, people have these, like, you know, limiting beliefs in their mind, and they're like, oftentimes they're based on nothing but propaganda. So it's like, oftentimes the things that people believe about life is just propaganda that they've just been repeated, saying, oh, well, you know, that everyone needs to work 9 to 5 in order for society to function. Says who? You know, says fucking who, you know? Like, surely there's a better way in 2025 than everybody just be miserable just doing a job that they hate. Surely there's a better way than that. You know, that is just, it's like, you know, that no one even questions it. They just accept it because that's what they've been told, or that's just what they've been conditioned to believe. That, oh, well, if we all just stop doing that, then the system would fail. Well, the system needs to be dismantled to rebuild, I think. Something new needs to replace it. something new that it's about. Maybe it's about bartering. You know, maybe that's a better way to do things. I'm not saying we shouldn't have money at all. I'm not saying we shouldn't have technology whatsoever. But what I'm saying is that we should have the system where we're able to, we don't rely on money like we do now, because this reliance on money is what's keeping people stuck in this system, this matrix, if you will, as what, Tate would call it, I guess, even though I don't like Tate, but you know what I mean? Like the whole matrix thing, it's like, we need to just like, sort of, look into alternatives, look into an alternative way of living for people. We need to do things such as, getting rid of restrictions on, hello, Bodika, how you doing? Removing restrictions on things like, removing, things such as, what restrictions is it like, kind of, let me think. So I need to try and think. So so restrictions on, things like land, when you own your own land, and you can't just like live on that, So I looked it up. You can't even put a tent on there without permission. It's bullshit, isn't it? It's like we need to probably get rid of tax as well. I think we need to get rid of that. The whole idea of mandatory tax, which is just, to me, it's just extortion. It's just pretty much theft. When they're trying to force people into paying tax that they don't even choose how that money is being spent. It's like, if we're to pay tax, then we should have a say in how that money is being spent. Taxation without representation is theft. So taxation in of itself, not, especially if it's a voluntary thing. Now, some might say that a voluntary system might not work, but I think most people would contribute but the thing is, a lot of this tax it's not necessary. And it's like, what is going on, Like, it's just being misused, used for wars, used for all kinds of bullshit, They're literally just blowing your money up in smoke. Literally. That's what they're doing. Because they're financing wars with it. They're financing a whole bunch of bullshit. They bailed out fucking bankers, Like, it's just crazy. And then when it was 2020, they were, spending all this money on fucking PPE that wasn't half the time even used. A lot of it was just a fucking waste. What a fucking joke. And a lot of that stuff wasn't even necessary. What a fucking joke. Like, they think that people are stupid. And some people are. A lot of people are, but there's some people that are like seeing through the bullshit. And you're watching these like programs and they're talking about the economy and all that, and it's like, let's say the one you're watching the news, and it's like, but they won't tell you what the real problems are. They won't tell you that the system as a whole is a fucking joke and how it needs to be completely dismantled. It needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. And that can be daunting for people, I understand, but it's like, but something needs to change, is what I'm saying. Even things like the justice system is fucked. There's a lot of things such as like family courts and all sorts of problems like that. The whole system is fucked. The healthcare system, anything where there's a lot of money involved, it's fucked. It needs to be something that is more like decentralized and run by the people for the people. We shouldn't be letting big corporations in these sort of things. There can be a lot of corruption going on with these types of things. Also, when we let big government handle things, when we have these combined powers of big government and big corporations and stuff, that's a recipe for disaster, basically. So we need to try and, I think one of the things that we could do is to try and sort of split up like big companies somehow. I don't know how we would make that work, but we'd have to try and split up the corporations if they get to a certain size. That would encourage more competition and stop monopolies from forming. So that's one way that someone was suggesting to make things more fair. Once they're making over a certain amount of money, they would have to split up. So let's say once they're making over 100 million or so or whatever, they have to split up, into like smaller companies or something. Oh, really? That's crazy, that, isn't it? I haven't anyway. So I think that we need to do things like look into like how we're going to get rid of corporate monopolies, but then again you could say it's too far gone because we've got these we've got literally billionaires in this country even, and all of their wealth is, we can't just take all of their wealth away, but what we can do is like try to like decrease their influence on things somehow. You might say, well, what if they then try to secretly still own other companies and stuff like that? Well, we need to make sure that isn't the case somehow. Like say if we split up a company into two, then somebody else has to be the CEO of that company. That's how it works. So let's say you have a big company like I don't know, like one of the petrol companies or whatever, right? BP or whatever, or Shell, right? Like they then have to like split up or something, and then somebody else would then buy half of that company. That way, it then breaks up that monopoly. It breaks it up into smaller companies. Now, yeah, you can say it's not a monopoly because there's a few different ones, but like things need to change is what I'm saying. And it's like people talk about capitalism and the benefits of that and free markets, but in order for free market capitalism to work, we might have to like break companies up into smaller companies to create more competition. So it's not about becoming socialist or communist, but it's about creating some kind of regulation on it that like stops it from, going out of control and rich people getting richer and richer. Meanwhile, the people at the bottom are struggling. There's something very wrong about that. Now, some people argue, well, these own the business, therefore they have the right to pay people what they want, because they've took all the risk on. I understand that, but the employees are oftentimes putting in more work and they're not getting anything much from it. You could say it's very risky what they're doing, but it's like, but there's a risk to everything. Even if you're an employee, you could just get fired. You could get fired after fucking 3 months in a job, 6 months in a job, and because you haven't worked there very long, you don't really get much of a redundancy pay or anything, So it's not even secure, especially nowadays. It's not even fucking secure. One time you could have had a job for life and it was secure. Nowadays, you work for some big company or whatever, and then it's like 6 months later, your job's gone, you barely get any redundancy, and then you're fucked. Unless you can find another job, but oftentimes people can take years to find another job. So, but you might be better off just looking, I guess, to start your own company or something nowadays. But it's like, it's not easy because the whole system is like rigged. They make it hard for like small companies to even thrive anymore because of how basically trying to compete with these means that you have to try and keep prices low enough, but then your profit margins are less because, you know, if you're a small company, because you have to like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, if you're not getting as much profit because you're not able to sell the amount of products that you would need to. It's like when you say bulk buying and stuff like that. So this whole system is like basically designed to make rich people richer, but the small businesses are fucked because they cannot buy stuff in the quantities that would be necessary to be able to have only small profit margins on each item. So, for example, they buy a whole bunch of like bananas or whatever products or whatever, and it's like they would probably have to charge more because they're not able to like sell as many. They're and oftentimes certain products, it's like they work out cheaper when they can get more produced for them and stuff like that. The higher the quantity, the lower it ends up costing per item. So it's all skewed. It's skewed against the small businesses and stuff. And I think that there should be some, maybe something like the rich should, the taxes that are rich, you know, like for example, I think we need to sort out the loopholes, right? These tax loopholes and things like that. Get the rich paying more tax and use that to subsidize small businesses, maybe something like that, because another option as well. So that way they have, you know, better, they're able to kind of keep their products relatively cheap. Things like that, you know, because oftentimes you go to a small business and their products are just too expensive, really. So they're like struggling because not a lot of people want to be spending that much. So they'll just go to the supermarket where it's cheaper. But if they were subsidized, maybe then that could be good. I don't know. It's just an idea. Maybe it needs to be subsidized or something, but I'm not really too sure how it would all work. But yeah, but it's all about creating competition and allowing the smaller businesses to compete, which, if anything, would probably create even more competitive prices, which would actually be even better for the economy, because then the corporations wouldn't get away with charging what they do, and because they probably don't even need to charge that much, but they're just greedy. You know, they don't need to be making all this profit. They could just, you know, make half as much profit or whatever and bring the prices down a bit. So there's a lot of stuff that can be done. There's a lot of stuff that we could try and do to make things fairer for like smaller businesses and stuff. Like I said, subsidizing them would be a start, helping them out, helping them to compete. Because otherwise, you know, like they're struggling. I don't know. It's just that things need to change. But we, like I said, I'd like to have a movement where like I could get everyone on board, and we're like, right, this is what we're gonna do. I don't know how it's all gonna work, but I'm gonna figure something out, because like I want to get enough people on side where we can all network and try and, you know, make stuff happen, like activism and stuff like that on a massive scale. And I'd start getting people, and I'd try and come up with like some kind of manifesto, and then we would get it public, you know, not published, but like we would get it put out there basically. And yeah, I mean, what I could do is somehow get a book made, something like that, and then sell it, and then I could use some of the profits to then be able to gain more influence, perhaps, something like that might be an option. So if, say, like I sold the book on like my manifesto on how I see the world should be, and we get everyone buying it, and you know, like it would be so I'd have to start, you know, thinking of what I want to see, different chapters on like things such as economics and things like that, how politics should be run, and yeah, so that would I'd probably just do it like digitally, because that's what they do now. I'd probably just sell it as like a PDF or something. I'm not sure exactly how I would do it yet, but it's something I would like to do. Is like, yeah, I would get the manifesto out, and then it could be then used as a way to, like I said, to help me out, and it would help me get my message out more. And then I could use that money to then buy a bunch of I could buy ads with that, I guess, to push my message out more. Possibly even things such as billboards and all sorts of shit, basically. You know? So if I could like try and raise a certain amount of money, and then I could basically use that money to then perhaps push my message further, get it all over, basically, get it seen in so many different places, something like that, you know? What's my mantra? Like I said, I want to try and get some kind of possibly a manifesto out or something. It could just be like a pamphlet or something with all of my, or just, you know, a small book with like all of the points of like kind of how I see it, things running, in terms of, you know, like the environment, in terms of the economy, things like that. Things need to change, and that would all be like put into like a book or something, and it would be something that I don't know if I could get it like published or anything, and it would be something that I could get in the shops, but it's something I think that would be a interesting project to get out, and hopefully it could get my ideas out to like the mass. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a particular mantra, but yeah, I will be getting off pretty soon. But one of the things I'm thinking is like, we need to encourage people to be more creative and to pursue their own passions in life, because this whole system is about, it's all about productivity, but not creativity. Productivity is kind of like something of, it can have value or it can not have value, or it can be valuable to certain people and not others. Like I could be being productive in my work, but then that productivity doesn't benefit me. It only benefits somebody else, makes, you know, build somebody else's empire. So it's about being productive in ways that benefit you and society, and not just some greedy billionaires. And that's the thing, that one of the things I would want to put into that, and about it allowing for people to, find who they are, to focus on their passions. People would have more time to be able to do these things because they're not tied down to a job that they hate. People would be able to express themselves for who they are instead of being drained by a job that they hate and being around environments that they hate. They're able to be truly themselves and not conform to anything like. So yeah. We need to get you a quote, just something specific. I got to be able to quote you on something. All right. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's a bit of a tricky one. It's like there was this guy called Hamza, and he was doing this like self-improvement movement, and he has this mantra or whatever, this quote called "Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it," and that was something that really like resonated with a lot of people at the time. But he has had some like downfalls and stuff, and I don't know what to really think of him anymore because he's flip-flopped a lot, and I don't know. His reputation's been a bit kind of tainted, to be honest, but he still has some like dedicated followers and stuff. But I mean, to be fair, he did kind of create a movement. Him and his mate, they built this movement of like getting all these people into self-improvement. I think they got quite a lot of people into self-improvement. That they influenced a lot of people to get onto that. So, give credit where credit is due, sort of thing. But we've got to really focus on the actual mission, and it's like not to get so caught up in making money for selfish desires, because then you end up getting lost and then you end up neglecting other things. That's what happened with him. He even said himself that he ended up, stopping going to the gym as much, and he felt a bit kind of like he was slipped off a bit. But then he started getting back into it again. I don't know. It's just, we're all, human and stuff, and it's just we've got to be careful not to pedestalize anybody as being some kind of, especially if you start seeing us as some kind of like cult leader, then that's dangerous. Yeah, you should probably run a mile if someone starts, talking language like they're a cult leader. That you should follow them like they're a cult leader. It's dangerous, that. And yeah, people start to become clones of you, and everyone all just is like the same. My message is about individuality and everyone finding who they truly are. And but in terms of like a political change in the world, I mean, I think my thing is about kind of is like I said, about sort of doing away with this whole hustling and stuff, this whole need to have to work every day just to survive. Like, most people probably don't even really need to do that if we just design things in a way that, like, people should have all their basic needs met. Like, whether that's food or whatever, we should be trying to grow more food. We should be trying to, things like that, allow people to live in their own shelters and things like that. I want to encourage that, people to live the way that they want to live. That's what I want to do. That's kind of like what would be in my manifesto about sort of like being kind of that basically about sort of like the focus on like experience rather than about money. and people are chasing money, but then it's not actually satisfying their soul. And so that's what I want to, look into in terms of like how we can implement certain things, and it would explain. So I could use, even it might even be worth using AI to do that actually, because sometimes AI can solve problems for you that you might have struggled with. A lot of people bash on AI, but it can help you and give you some inspiration. I think you should try and come up with ideas first, but if you're struggling, then AI can step in and give you a perspective on things. You shouldn't use it to just like stop thinking about things, but use it as a tool to aid with your productivity, I would say. If you're struggling for some ideas, just use that. So that way I see the world is about people making a living from their passions, because we wouldn't really need that much money to live in the first place, because we would be allowed to live with freedom and be able to, for example, buy ourselves a tiny home and we should be able to, use it in the public, for example, and like mobile homes, for example, and be able to, do that. I think was something that we should be able to, we should have a right to do that, as long as we're not, being like, as long as we're not stepping on anybody else's toes. Like, we should be able to just like have a little cabin in the woods or something like that if we want to do that. That is something that that's probably going to be in that. People being allowed to, technically some people do try to like, they try and do like, wild camping, different things, but it's like, but the fact that it isn't legal, it's just not right, is it? Like, because if something's legal and encouraged, then I think more people would do it. More people would want to just live freely and they just want to. Some people can do van life and things like that, but so this is what it's all about. People should be able to do van life if they want to do that, but now they're trying to like crack down on it. I've heard in certain places they're not even letting you do it anymore. But we should be able to have like a sort of, a mobile home or something like that, especially if we own the land that it's on. That's the thing, right? If you own a piece of land, you should be able to like have that on there. Why not? Why shouldn't people be able to do that? I think it's all done to just like, to just keep people stuck. And because they don't want people doing that, because then they're not paying taxes and they're not contributing so much to the system. But that's the point. We shouldn't have to. People shouldn't have to if they don't want to. You might say, well, what about like, things such as, you might say, well, what about things like doctors and nurses? Yeah, some people might still want to work. Some people might still want to do all these things and, live a luxurious lifestyle or whatever. Hello, UK, selling videos. Like, some people might still want to do these things, but the point is that they shouldn't have to if they don't want to. They shouldn't feel obligated. People should be encouraged to find their own purpose, not have their purpose dictated to them. Now, people could if they really wanted to, but the point is that a lot of people have been conditioned to feel like nothing's possible. There's a limit to everything. Maybe we should be able to test things, how far that limit is for different things, like how many homes we can put on land. Yeah, it's probably a lot more than you think, though. But it's just sad. It's even things like there's literally like abandoned houses that are just going to rot, and it's sad. They could be like salvaged, but instead they just let them rot, and they keep building new houses on greenbelt land and whatever. We need to look at making more use of the land that we have, and even some public land maybe should be able to be used for people to put their own private property on it. For example, like have a tiny home or something. People should be able to like put like a mini camper on it or something like that, like in the woods, and have it there for however long they want, really, as long as it's not, causing any problems to the environment. I'd argue that the setup that we have now is far worse for the environment. I mean, I could be wrong, but the fact that people use so much like appliances, all this electricity, gas, whatever, to run their homes is very, intense on that. And then there's so many people going to work every day, it's like if we just kind of like strip out of the unnecessary parts of life, then that would be a lot better for the environment. I'm still trying to find something to hold on to it and the purpose. It's hard and getting harder as I keep going through a cycle. Yeah, I get that, but it's all about your identity first, like who are you? And then it's like, what is it that I'm here to do? Where's my purpose here? It's like, are you here to help others? How can you help others? Some people call themselves, what's the word? Like light workers or whatever. These are like kind of, these sort of what they call them, like kind of like spiritual kind of people. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but some people believe they have some divine mission on earth, that they are here to bring light to the world, like bring in like positive changes to the world. Hi, Kusitio, good to see you again. Bit of a scam, what's that? What do you mean? What's a bit of a scam? And about the whole spiritual stuff. But I'm saying that like, that maybe there's like, is it that there's some people out there that have like a divine mission? But I kind of think that we create our own mission here, and I don't know, like indigo people you was on about. So I don't know. Like some people believe that they're chosen, but I think that you choose yourself, really, because the idea that you're chosen or whatever means that you don't have free will. So the thing is that it's up to us to decide what it is that we want to do here. We have to decide, okay, is this what path that I want to take? Nothing's been sticking lately. Well, it might just be about taking a step back and letting go, because I don't know, maybe you've just been putting too much pressure on it. Is that possibly what's going on? And then you just get burnt out, perhaps? Because that can happen if you get too invested in something and then you get sick of it and you get burnt out, either mentally or physically burnt out. The love and light is different. What do you mean? Yeah, it's indigos or something. I don't know, but it's like this whole thing of, like we call them light workers, or what's the other word? There's another word for it if I remember. Star seeds. There's another one I think. I don't know if they're the same thing, but they believe that they have some kind of divine mission, and that they're here to bring a positive change. But I don't necessarily know if like there's anything divine that is making me want to try and bring positive change to the world. I just think it comes down to like your psyche and how you your perception of the world and all that from your own experiences and all that. What does that mean? Because it's your... So basically, like, if like you're wanting to see positive changes, then it's like, you want to like I said, try and come up with a manifesto where it's got all of your plans all in some kind of book or something, which you can then put out. So journal it down and then get it distributed. That's my plan. And I do plan maybe on selling it, because then I could use that for my own kind of part of that could be for my own purpose, but also some of it could then be used to advertise it more, to get that message out to far more people. Like, imagine if we could get 1 million people seeing ads, for example. Like, imagine if I set up some ad or whatever, whether that's through AdSense or whatever, and got my got it to be exposed to like millions of people or something like that. But we mean cluster B personality. What we're talking about? You're saying that those have cluster B personality. Everyone having all these different labels like BPD and like I don't know. Yeah, that would be a good idea, I think. Yeah. Right, I'm gonna get going, guys. So I'll see you all later. Thank you for stopping by. All right. Dark triad. Oh yeah, I've heard about that. What is it? Narcissism, Machiavellianism and psychopathy, something like that. I think it is. Yeah. And some people like talk about this whole thing of main character syndrome, and maybe that's something I have. I don't know, but it's like I was talking earlier about arrogance and stuff like that, but it's like maybe there's a way to turn it into something good. Like if you have a sense of like importance in this life, then you could then try and manifest it into something meaningful, something of purpose, where you're actually bringing a positive change to the world. And then anyway, energy vampires. All right, see you in a bit. You're not next to it. Right, okay, take care, bye.